I'm going to walk you through the Elite Outdoor Movies premium inflatable movie screen because I know how easy it is to get caught up in the hype of giant backyard cinema and end up with something that doesn't really match your space, your weather, or the way you actually want to watch a film. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. My goal here is to give you a straightforward look at what it's like to set this thing up, use it through a summer season, and decide whether the price tag actually translates into real value for you. First, let's talk about the hesitation most people feel before they click Add to Cart. An inflatable screen promises a massive picture without the permanent installation of a permanent screen, but that also means you have to deal with inflation, anchoring, and the fact that you're essentially adding a large, semi-rigid object to your yard for a few hours at a time. The biggest questions tend to be, will it actually stay upright in a light breeze? How much ground space does it need? And will the picture look as good as the advertised 17 by 10 dimensions suggest, or will the seams and surface texture ruin the viewing experience? I spent a couple of weekends actually putting the screen together in a typical suburban backyard, and I'll break down what that looked like. The box arrives with the screen folded flat, an air pump, a set of stakes, and a few rope ties. Unfolding takes a minute or two, then you hook the pump up and watch the screen fill with air. The whole inflation process is surprisingly quick, under 5 minutes from start to full shape, assuming you have a decent electric pump. Once inflated, you stake the base into the grass and run the included tie-downs to keep the bottom from flapping. The screen sits about 4.5 feet off the ground, which is high enough that you can set up a projector on a table or a low tripod without worrying about the image being blocked. What impressed me most was the claim that the surface is theatrical grade seamless. In practice, the material feels tighter than a typical cloth screen you might see at a community fair. There's no obvious stitching in the projection area, which means the image stays clean even when you're pulling a high-definition sports broadcast from a short-throw projector. I tried both front and rear projection, and the rear side performed just as crisply great if you want to keep the projector hidden behind the screen for a cleaner look. Now, who should actually consider buying this? If you have at least a 20 by 15 foot yard, a flat surface, and you enjoy hosting movie nights, sports watch parties, or even just a family-friendly backyard theater once a month, this screen hits a sweet spot. The size is large enough that you don't need to sit nose-at-nose with your neighbors to get a full screen feel, yet the inflatable nature means you can deflate, store, and bring it out again without a permanent footprint. The washable, removable surface also helps if you have kids who might spill popcorn or if you live in an area where dust and pollen can settle on the screen. On the flip side, if you're living in an apartment with a balcony, or your yard is more of a narrow strip with lots of trees, you'll quickly run into problems. The screen needs a clear, unobstructed rectangle of space, and the 4.5-foot elevation means you'll need a sturdy platform for your projector that's also out of the way of any foot traffic. Moreover, the product isn't designed for heavy wind while the stakes and tie-downs keep it stable in a gentle breeze. A gust over 15 miles per hour can cause the screen to wobble or even deflate partially if the anchors aren't set deep enough. So if you're in a coastal area with frequent wind, you might spend more time reinforcing the base than actually watching movies. Let's talk practical strengths. The first is the true measurements claim. Many inflatable screens oversell their visible area, but the projection surface on this model truly measures 17 feet wide by 10 feet tall. That translates to a 26.7-foot diagonal, which is exactly what the specs say: no hidden borders, no invisible padding. The second strength is durability. The manufacturer explicitly notes that the material isn't the typical Oxford cloth that can rip or sag over time. Instead, it's a tougher polymer blend that resists punctures and holds its shape over many inflation cycles. I was able to wipe the surface clean with a damp cloth after a rain-swept evening, and it dried quickly without leaving streaks. The third practical point is the dual-side projection capability. If you ever want to hide the projector for a cleaner aesthetic or need to project from behind due to limited space, you can flip the screen without worrying about a loss in brightness. Weaknesses are just as important. First, the storage footprint is sizable. When deflated and folded, the screen still takes up a large bag, and you need to allocate a dry storage space to prevent